Detroit Lions fans, Detroit Den 313 back with another episode. I'm not gonna, because Steve said I'm not allowed to call this Victory Monday anymore. So I guess it's just Monday.
It's just Monday. Just the Monday before Thanksgiving. That's it. You can call it that. It's just another
Yeah.
Monday, though.
So on the Monday before Thanksgiving, just another regular Monday. We're back to talk some Detroit Lions football, a little news, a little bit. We're gonna bounce around a little bit today. Steve, where do you want to start this thing?
Yeah, like you said, we don't have an agenda tonight. Our game day episode, we're going to get that out tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow in the evening sometime. This is just to sit back, make a drink, enjoy the show. We got some rumors. We got some fun stuff. We got some stuff that may be serious. Maybe you guys have to figure out what we're being serious about, what we're not. But I want to start with probably the big news of the day. Jameson Williams will not be facing any charges for his, I guess we'll call it a gun incident. Yeah, that he had with the DPD. I can't remember when that was, back whenever, if you guys are familiar with the situation, his brother driving the car, got pulled over, asked if they had any guns in the car. They fessed up to it. They didn't try to hide anything. Jameson Williams had a gun underneath his seat, registered to him. That's a no-no, but sloppy police work pretty much is what is kind of getting Jameson off the hook on this one.
Yeah, I think it was sloppy police work, man. And I think that there was just so many different ways that they could have went about it. I think they were aware that it wasn't really there's better things to worry about in the city of Detroit than what was going on in that vehicle. His gun had a CPL, which really he could have been, not to get into like the law, but his brother could have been in control of both of those weapons. And had they just said that rather than J-Mo saying what he said, you know what I mean? It could have been handled in a different way. But yeah, man, I'm glad that there's not going to be any more legal recourse against him, man. And we're moving on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just glad it's done and over with. I hope this is the last negative news we hear about Jameson Williams. I hope the next news we hear is, hey, Jameson Williams, signs a 5-year extension, or that's the kind of news I'd like to hear in regards to Jameson Williams. I want to keep him a Detroit Lion for a long time. When you're at a Lions game, William, and Jameson Williams catches a 10-yard pass, what's the first thing you do? Yeah, you do that, and you might put your hand on the seat and start to stand up a little bit, because he's one of those guys where if you're at a Detroit Lions game, or if you've never been, I'm trying to make this environment for you. You can hear the gasps as everyone when he touches the ball, like, oh, this could be it. Like, he could be gone. And sometimes you can tell this dude's special, man. Like, when he gets a football in his hands, you just never know what's going to happen. And we've seen big plays. We've seen reverses. We've seen end arounds. We've seen bubble screens go for 50 yards. We've seen him. I think he had a game a couple games ago where he got the ball and I blinked and he was 15 yards up the field. Like, he's got that kind of difference-making speed.
Yeah, I love it, man. You're dead on. It reminds me of Barry Sanders, because I'm giving away my age, but being at the Pontiac Silverdome when Barry got the ball, you did the same thing. As soon as Barry touched it, he made that first guy miss, and you were like, is he about to? Is he? And that's exactly what it is at Ford Field every time he touches it.
It reminds me of someone else. Barry Sanders is one person. You know who the other one is?
Steve Perkins.
Stephen Perkins, when mom was calling him by his full name out in out in public. Like, when mom calls you and like she has that certain tone, like, hey, I'm running the other way. You become the fastest kid ever alive. All right. Jameson Williams is in that same category. Yeah, we got to leave him alone. Stop picking on him. Let the dude just play football. We'll talk about some other stuff, JMO related, here in a minute. But it's good news that he's not going to be facing any charges.
For sure, man. For sure.
What else we got?
I got a question for you, man. And I know we kind of joked around about this the other day, but this is a serious question, or at least it's going to start out serious. I don't know where you're going to take it, but I've been seeing some rumors going around Twitter that the Detroit Lions have some interest in a player who's just become available. So first things first, I want to know, do you have any interest in the Detroit Lions bringing in Danny Dimes as a backup quarterback? Because the rumors they said he was going to clear waivers, which he did. Now there's some rumors that the Detroit Lions may be interested in bringing him in as a backup quarterback. How do you feel about Danny Dimes potentially coming in as a backup quarterback?
Hang on. Did you say quarterback or cornerback?
QB1, not CB1. QB1.
QB1. Yes. Zero interest. CB3, we might be able to talk something and work something out. As a quarterback, no, I'll try to be serious.
QB2, I mean QB2. I apologize.
I don't think his ceiling's better than Hendon Hooker. So no, I'm not interested in Daniel Jones. Is he more proven? Does he have a playoff win under his belt? Yes. Um, I would be interested in maybe the emergency quarterback role, but I'm comfortable with Hendon Hooker. I think Hendon Hooker brings something to this offense potentially that we haven't seen yet. Um, I think Hendon's still my guy at QB2. Now, if we get into a situation like the San Francisco 49ers had a couple years ago in the NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles, where they were pulling hot dog vendors to come onto the field and play quarterback for them, we might be talking. But QB2 backing up Jared Goff, no, I'm pretty set with how our quarterback room's looking right now. What do you think?
Man, I'm opposite, man. I got to be honest. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to steer away from Hendon Hooker for the long run. So I know Hendon Hooker has a strong following in Detroit. Guys, wait a second. Let me finish. All right. I'm not steering away from long term, still giving Hendon Hooker an opportunity. But for this season, this special season that we're having right now, if I had to turn these keys over to Hendon Hooker, I would be worried that he wasn't quite ready. Danny Dimes, while he's not the best quarterback in the whole wide world, if we got him in here, and then just like you had mentioned the situation with the San Francisco 49ers, if we got him in here and we needed a quarterback for this season in the NFC Championship game because something happened to our quarterback, I would rather a veteran quarterback who has some ability and who's had some weeks now to understand the offense, play behind Jared Goff and start to get acclimated. I would rather see Danny Dimes taking those keys to the castle for that season. Now, long term, I think it would be I'd be looking at Hendon Hooker, but it might also be a cheap way to get another guy into that quarterback room to compete and kind of push Hendon Hooker. Say, hey man, you're not just the backup by default, fighting guys like the David Blows and Nate Sudfields of the world. You know what I mean? Now you got a real live QB that you got to battle with. That's really going to push you and make you work harder. So I think we've been seeing a lot of that throughout everything that the Lions do. They love to have competition. So for that reason, I wouldn't mind seeing Danny Dimes come in and be that backup QB2 for this season.
William, I hope you're careful walking around Detroit. All right, because Kwame Kilpatrick, former governor and mayor, loves hookers. Detroit Lions fans love hookers. All right, be careful out there. All right, listen. I watched Daniel Jones. I wish I could remember the game. I'm sure someone will post it. I want someone to leave a clip of it. I watched Daniel Jones bust off a wide open run and trip over his own 2 feet. Okay. Yeah, well, after that, from that moment on, I said, yeah, this dude's not gonna make it in the NFL. You cannot be playing quarterback, running wide open and tripping over your own 2 feet. This dude does a lot of stupid things with the football. I haven't seen Hendon Hooker make any mistakes, so I'm willing to give him the ropes instead of Daniel Jones, who literally walked his way out of New York, the Giants. He got his deal. Listen, we're not a Giants podcast, but I'll tell you right now, I thought it was a stupid move what they did this past offseason without drafting a quarterback and taking Malik Neighbors, who is a freak, but that's probably not what your team needed. Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback in this league.
Yeah, but to that same thing, sometimes a fresh start, Jared Goff, can give you an opportunity.
Saquon Barkley.
To do some things, man. So I think the opportunity to play behind Jared Goff would be huge for any quarterback. Just getting the opportunity to start to just learn how to be a professional in this NFL and get it done the right way. So if he came in and got the opportunity to play behind Jared Goff, that's something if I was him, I would be jumping at, right? And, if he does get the keys to the castle turned over to him, what better place? Best offensive line in football. 2 Sonic and Knuckles, best 2 running back duo in football. One of the best tight ends, 2 phenomenal receivers. Like, what place would you rather be in? So if I'm him, I would be like, I'd be asking to come to Detroit. Hey, maybe I can go be a backup and win a Super Bowl, right? That's number 1. Number 2, maybe I can learn from a quarterback who's playing phenomenal football. Number 2, and then anything I could ask for offensively down to the OC and the head coach. I wouldn't be surprised, man.
I can't get behind Daniel Jones. Listen, I think you're right. He'd be geared up for success better here than he would in New York. But if I were him, I think what would be hilarious is if it'd have to happen like real soon. He'd have to sign with the Dallas Cowboys, who play the New York Giants on Thanksgiving, get a little revenge. Like, I think that would be I have no interest in watching that Cowboys Giants game. If I'm being honest with you, that storyline would probably make me interested.
Yeah, it was. There's no reason to watch that football game other than if that happens. I was dead serious, man. I was like, the Cowboy Cooper Rush and Tommy DeVito. Like, what are we talking about? Yeah, I will be watching Christmas
Listen,
movies.
this is going to be like watching prime Peyton Manning and Tom Brady back in the day. What are you talking about? Well, this is a QB matchup for the century, some are saying.
Yeah, I'd rather watch a hot dog eating contest.
You could do that on July 4th. We could watch that as well. Yeah, I'm personally just not interested in Daniel Jones. Fresh start, yeah, I'm all for it. We've seen it. We're living proof of that with Jared Goff, but I think it's just a hard pass for me.
Understand, man. Guys, drop it in the comments. Let us know how you're feeling. Where we going next, Steve?
I got a crazy. This is one of those crazy topics. Okay, this is, guys, bear with us. Sitting back, you're at the bar drinking a beer. This is one of those things that come up. All right, there's a lot of talk about Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn leaving town, like this is the last run. And I was just thinking today, like with all the things that are going on with Ben Johnson, all things he's said about how he wants to go to a organization that's set up for success. He still wants to be able to call plays. He still wants to be a play caller and a head coach. I started thinking, like, man, when the Detroit Lions go to the Super Bowl in February and we knock off the Kansas City Chiefs, like Andy Reid's kind of talked about maybe hitting at some retirement. You know, he's getting up there. His family's been in the news in a negative spotlight. He might want to step back. Like, he's a very accomplished coach. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. This dude's been successful everywhere he's gone. If this is his last run and he hangs him up, I think Ben Johnson in Kansas City would be obviously a perfect fit. How would you feel about that?
Honestly, and I don't, you know how I am. Once these guys leave Detroit, they're dead to me. So honestly, I would now could it be would they be lucky to have him? Man, without a doubt. And does the thought of him and Patrick Mahomes linking up scare me? It does, but when I think about it, I don't know that Ben Johnson is a better play caller than Andy Reid. Andy Reid is phenomenal. So uh I don't know. I think it would be 2-1 the same if Ben went over there. We're kind of just dealing with the same thing. And but for us, I think we're prepared. I talk about Tanner Inkstrand. I think that he is a very underrated football coach right now, our passing game coordinator. And even if it's not him, Scotty Montgomery's another one. I think he's going to be a head coach in this league, and he's a phenomenal leader. So I don't know, man. I don't want to lose Ben, but I think that I know that this organization is prepared for it with how sought after we know both of those guys are. So I wouldn't be too worried.
I'm not worried. I think the Lions would be geared up for success for a long time. I trust Dan. I trust Brad. But I personally think Ben Johnson is like a younger version of Andy Reid. Okay. Now, if you think about it, Andy Reid does some very, very funky formations. You know, we remember like the spin-a-rooney and all that stuff, how they line up to try to throw you off, and some trick plays. And they have Patrick Mahomes. I see Ben Johnson doing a lot of that stuff in Detroit with some hook and lateral plays with Penei Sewell. And like, he does some wild shit. I think Ben Johnson, with what he said in the media of, you know, I want to be a head coach. I want to still maintain my play calling. I want to go to an organization that's set up for success. And they have the best quarterback in the NFL, regardless of stats. I do think Patrick Mahomes is the best. I think that the Chiefs check all the boxes for Ben Johnson. Now, would I be worried about it? No, that's an AFC team. We wouldn't have to worry about that until, you know, maybe one game every 4 years or in the Super Bowl. So long term, I'm not worried about it. But I think that'd be a perfect fit for Ben. But obviously, you know, that whole Andy Reid thing, they're not going to fire him, and he'd have to step down on his own. So it's kind of a long shot, but just kind of got my wheels spinning a little bit today with that.
For sure. I just don't think I love Ben. I can't put him on Andy Reid's level yet. I think it would be and I don't want to say a step back, but I don't think they're 1-1, man. I think Andy Reid, the stuff that he does is phenomenal. And we have situations where I feel like our offense gets a little dry sometimes. Not dry, but we have lulls sometimes. So that would be my only thing. But I hope that Ben is here for each one of these next few Super Bowl wins. I don't know if we're going on a 4 or 5 year run of Super Bowls, whatever the case may be. I hope he's here for all of them.
You said 4 or 5 years. I was thinking 4 or 5 decades of Super Bowl runs. Like,
I was just talking about why he's coaching here.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm talking decades. Like I'm trying to go into the ground with like 15 Super Bowls under my belt, William.
Yeah, I'm not mad at you. I'm in the same boat.
Just
Let's
a
get that
thought.
first one first.
Yeah,
Let's get that first one
let's
first.
get that first one in February. But just a thought, guys. Leave it in the comments. Let me know what you think about that. I think it just checks all the boxes that Ben Johnson has said. And Andy Reid's getting old. He's accomplished. I don't think he has much more to really shoot for. Like he's done it all. He's going into the Hall of Fame. It's just a matter of how long he wants to keep coaching. So
Yeah.
that's all I got about that. What you got next?
Steve, so today in Dan Campbell's press conference, he talked about injuries. And one of the things that he talked about was there was 3 guys on this list right here that had a tough time seeing being ready for Thursday's football game. He mentioned Khalif, he mentioned Decker, and he mentioned CD Carlton Davis. So potentially being without those 3 guys, do you think we should be worried about Thursday's game against the Chicago Bears? Because we're banged up already, man.
Yeah, if I'm worried, yeah, I'm worried. It's a short week. Man, what concerns me the most might be Carlton Davis, just because of the play that I saw from Kindle Vildor, and don't know. Yeah, I don't know about that. That seatbelt looks like it was sinking in underneath a bridge from a drunk driver. I don't know, because nobody was driving that car responsibly. Right. That concerns me. Terran Arnold still being banged up. I don't trust our corners depth. I haven't seen Amik Robertson play outside cornerback, so that's what concerns me there. I think he's doing very well in his role. I don't want to see him step out of it and struggle.
Yeah.
And then we've seen Taylor Decker miss a game and Dan Skipper have to come in, and love Skip. I love his role as well. I love him in that jumbo package. I think it fits him perfectly. We asked him to step up and be something that he's not, and he struggled, and it wasn't pretty against Houston.
Yep.
It was actually quite ugly in that first half. So those are probably the 2 that scare me the most. Khalif Raymond, I just don't want to see Amon-Ra St. Brown fielding punts. That's all. Like, we got to find a guy. There's got to be a guy we can throw back there on punt return.
Yeah, I mean there is, man. Like somebody I put in the comments, I believe, talking about bringing back Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's still in our practice squad, just to do roles like that. I think that I would be fine with that. He's a guy that he can offer something in the return game, and I think he could
Tom
offer
Kennedy.
something. Yeah, hey, TK85 is another one. I'd be all right with that too, man. I think he might fit what we do offensively a little bit better than Donovan Peoples-Jones. So I would be good with either of those. I agree with you. I do not like seeing Amon-Ra St. Brown back there. There's kind of 2 strikes for me with Dan Campbell, and I say that very, very tentatively. I don't mean to sound ungrateful the fact that we're 10-1, but we against the Jacksonville Jaguars, where we were up by 100 points, so we had some dogs out there. One that sticks out in my mind right now is Panay. Panay's still out there, and we're up 40 points. We're still throwing deep balls to Amon-Ra St. Brown. We're up to 40. What are we doing? So those are things that worry me. And I get what Dan Campbell said. He's the head coach. He's making the decisions, and he's the one that's put together this team. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention that worries me. Now I'm watching Amon-Ra St. Brown return punts and almost get his head knocked off. So those are just things that worries me. There's only so many times that we can put our hands around that stove and not get burned. So I think that's something that we got to keep an eye on, and I hope that Dan is tapering things back a little bit. You know what I mean?
Listen, I don't know exactly what goes on those headsets in game day. Like, I mean, they're a little bit more fancy than the ones we're wearing here, but when Khalif Raymond goes out, I imagine a name comes across that headset. Hey, I need someone for punt return. Hey, how about Amon-Ra St. Brown? If I'm Dan Campbell, I'm keying up. Hey, absolutely not. Yeah, kill. Come up with hey, throw someone else back there. All right, it's not going to be my
Kobe Sorstal, anybody, Coyote Awasika, anybody.
It's not going to be my Pro Bowl wide receiver, my All Pro wide receiver, my best blocking wide receiver. Now, I would, if it's Amon-Ra and I'm Dan Campbell and I'm signing off on this, there are some very strict rules. Yeah, you are there to fair catch or let the ball bounce. Those are literally your only 2 options. You are not fielding it and running it. You want to field punts, you want to be a decoy, fine. You catch that ball, end of play, no running.
Yeah. Hey, on their podcast, they put out typically on Twitter, they'll put out, hey, is there any questions that you want us to go over for the podcast? I was looking all over for that today. I was gonna, hey, Amon-Ra, Are you planning to continue to keep going back and returning punts? Like, as I need that question answered on that podcast, please. And thank you. So if you guys see it, please type in that question to those guys. I need that question answered.
Yeah, I can't have it. I'm sorry. There's plenty of other dudes who can go back there and field punts. No, I can't have him doing it.
Yeah, agreed, man. Agreed. Really, the last thing that I got for you, Steve, is just a little bit. Coach Campbell talked about this today, and that's these end zone celebrations. Now, we did a show last week that got a lot of people's panties in a bunch, right? About how Matt Derry's take on celebrations, J-Mo jumping in the backwards into the end zone. I made mention to on a different podcast, Amon Ra flipped into the end zone, and I didn't hear him talk about it or whatever.
Last year against the Denver Broncos, I believe.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about that, but Coach Campbell talked about it today, who I think is probably more important than Matt Derry and us. So he addressed it today.
Beg to differ. I don't
know. Close, right? So, but Coach Campbell addressed it today in his press conference, and he said that he tells those guys pretty much for the most part, if they don't get him a 15-yard penalty, he's not too worried about what they're doing. He went furthermore to say he did a little pause, like even if it's 15, if it's in the right situation. That's kind of how I felt about it, guys. Tell me if you watched the press conference how you felt. But then he went on to say those guys deserve to be able to have some fun and have a good time with it, and I think that is something that they deserve. Number one, whatever the NFL wants to say, it's entertainment, and they're capitalizing on that by people wanting to watch it and see it. You know, that's part of the entertainment and the atmosphere. So they fine you, but they're not mad when the ratings go up, when people want to see you doing all this crazy stuff. That's one problem. Two, I think the coach is dead on, right? So how do you feel about it, Steve? Do you feel like these guys should be doing these celebrations?
Well, shooting dice, like they could have hurt their knees when they got down there to shoot the dice. Like, come on, we can't. No.
And it's gambling.
Yeah, like, that's gambling. That's a no-no right there. No, that's guys, that's called sarcasm. No, I have no issues. I even told you before we started recording tonight, we had a minute to talk. I said about these celebrations, I remember the Monday night game, Jameson Williams scored the long touchdown. It was right in our end zone. I saw him running toward the goalpost, and I could tell he was about to dunk it over the goalpost. And I said, that's going to be 15. But my first thought was he better not jam himself up and not make this dunk, because that's going to be more bad news for him in the on like Twitter and TikTok and all that. He's going to be a GIF. But I knew that was going to be a 15-yard penalty. The league said that if you attempt to dunk on the goalpost, it's 15 yards. I respect it. He was paying homage to Calvin Johnson, who used to do that all the time. Stupid rule. Like, why can't you dunk a football? Like, I don't understand. I don't make the rules for the NFL. I don't have any problems. Like, I think I draw the line when I see it, and mostly in colleges, like where people are wielding guns. Like, I think that's where I draw the line. Like, if you're doing a dunk on a goalpost or anything, like, that's fine. But when you're talking about killing people, that's probably where I have to draw the line there, William.
Yeah, I understand that. I can go with that.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah, that's about the same for me, man. I think they should be able to do pretty much anything that's not like overly negative or like just completely ridiculous, where you're just, like you said, if you're threatening to kill somebody, brandishing a weapon, okay, like now, okay, we're going too far. But if you're doing dances, mimicking old times, great moments in sports history, Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown did the Allen Iverson crossover and step over, those type of things, that's cool to me, man. I really like how these guys are paying homage to great athletic history, whether it be basketball, football. Like they're doing Allen Iverson now. We've crossed over to completely different sports. Like I think that's cool. I think it's special, and I think it speaks to our team that these are guys that are fans of greatness, and not just in football, different sports, man. So I tip my hat to it, man. I think it's entertaining. I don't love all of them, but I respect all of them, and they did the work to become in the 1% to be out there and get an opportunity to do it.
So you saw what I think it was the wide receiver room. They all wore like throwback NBA jerseys on the flight, and I think it was St. Brown was wearing a Vince Carter jersey, and Gibbs was wearing the Iverson. So he did the Iverson step over, like you said. I'm curious to know what St. Brown had planned if he scored a touchdown, because I'm thinking, was he going to bring out Taylor Decker and dunk over him, like dunk over the tallest guy, like Vince Carter did in the Olympics? Like,
there's nothing else.
I need that answered. I mean, the Vince Carter was one of the best dunkers in NBA history, so I can only imagine what St. Brown had planned. But I feel like we need to get that answered as well, more than the punts. Like, hey, will we see your NBA celebration next time you score a touchdown? That needs to be answered.
I like that. If I see that post, I'll put it in there, and guys, help us out. If you see, those are the two things we need. And when you see the St. Browns on Twitter post their question request for their podcast, those are the two things, man. Make sure you put them in the comments, man. What was St. Brown's celebration going to be, and will he please stop returning punts, because we don't want to see him back there.
Now I'm kind of curious about, I think someone was wearing a Sean Kemp jersey. I can't remember who. I'm trying to pull up the picture, but I'm curious to see like what some of these other dudes had planned too, man, because I know that they've talked about this. They get asked, hey, I remember watching Wide Receiver on Netflix, and they were talking, him and his girlfriend were talking about like, hey, what's your celebration for this week? Like, I know this goes in like, this is like weekly preparation. So he had something planned. All of them had something planned.
You know it.
Yeah, I got to see what St. Brown's was, because he's not a big guy. I got to see, was he going to try to bring Dan Skipper out there and dunk? Like, I need some answers, William.
Yeah, that would have been crazy, man. I'm gonna be honest. That would have been nuts.
We're going to clip this and put that on TikTok, and we need to get that trending, and maybe St. Brown responds to it, or maybe he does it in the next on the Thanksgiving game. That would be a great time to do it. Primetime, national television. Let's get that answered before Thursday.
No doubt, man.
Anything else, Will?
That's all I got for this one.
All right, guys, that's it. Like we said, just wanted to jump on here, do a little, some news, some rumors, have a little fun. We got our game day episode coming out. If you guys have got any questions about that, leave it in the comments. Stick around, hit that like button. We'll be back later with another show.